Here's another news flash for you. The floods happening in Bangladesh are our future. As much as 75% of Bangladesh can be covered by water during the monsoon season each year. And the monsoon season is getting longer and longer, so the floods are happening more and more often. And we've got water coming down from the Himalayas to the north and up from the Bay of Bengal from the south. The hurricanes are happening more and more frequently. And so the people there are dealing with flooding all the time. And if we take a look at the Bay Area where I live, the blue areas are marshy areas right now that are basically nature preserves, but all of the red areas are where people live. And these are areas that will be underwater because of rising sea levels. And though that will happen by the year 2099. See the airports, large parts of South Palo Alto and Union City. So this is real and it is happening. This is from a California Climate Change Center study done in 2009. And Bangladesh, because they have so many floods, is adapting to it right now. They are developing disaster management plans and flood relief methods that are a model for what many other countries in the world can follow. And the reason why they're focusing on adaptation instead of mitigation is because they don't have very much of a carbon footprint. It's the large countries like the United States and India and China who have so many people or who have such high consumption rates that really are responsible for mitigating climate change. The Bangladeshis are really paving the way for adaptation. What do you think? Should the United States be focusing on mitigating or adapting to climate change? Right now, we're not really doing much of either officially in our government because we're still debating on whether or not climate change is even real. And I was really struck by the amount of people in Bangladesh who kept mentioning the United States as we're the one country that's still trying to figure out if it's happening or not, while the rest of the world has moved on. Here's a story about one of the most powerful things that happened to me on the trip. And this is really illustrates why travel is important for everybody. So this was on a night. We'd been in Bangladesh for about a week and a half, and we were traveling in a large group. We had a lot of security because our host wanted to make sure we were safe, and we weren't really allowed to move much around on our own. And so this was a trip on our way to the mangrove jungle, to the Sundarbans. And I was rooming once again with Sajahan, my security guard, or our security guard. And he said, hey, do you want to go meet my cousin? She just got married. She lives about 15 minutes from here. So I was so excited to finally get out and do something that wasn't with the group and that wasn't under watch, lock, and key. So we headed out and got into the CNG, which is a little taxi, three-wheeled taxi, and off we headed. And this was what it was like. No street lights. More and more people kept crowding into this little vehicle, and we were going 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, farther and farther outside of the city. And I was really nervous, and I started to think, I don't know the language. I don't really even know where I am. I've just met this guy. If I was to get lost or if anything was to happen, I'm totally powerless. And usually I'm very much in power over where I am and what I'm doing. So I actually got so worried as we got farther and farther out that I thought I might be being kidnapped. And for anyone who knows me, I'm a very trusting person. I'm very empathetic. And I don't know. It was so unfamiliar that I became really worried. And I then started to question whether or not he was a terrorist who was kidnapping me, because this is a Muslim country, and in the United States, in the media all the time, we hear about the scary things that happen in countries in the Middle East. And I was just reminded of how much I do buy into these stereotypes in spite of my efforts not to. And when we got there to his sister's or to his cousin's house, this is who was waiting for us. And it was his family, and they welcomed me into their home and were so friendly and so kind. And I was very ashamed of the fact that I would ever think that he would do anything to harm me. And I actually told him later on the trip that I had felt this way, and he was very sad that I would ever think that he would want to cause me any harm. But I think it just is a powerful story about what we learn about ourselves, the things we may not like very much, but which come to the surface when we put ourselves into new situations.